Greetings, Dr. Jeffrey Scott here, and this is my Market MRI Pro update for Thursday, January 29th, 2026, the day after Microsoft earnings. Mixed bag tech earnings leads to early sell-off, but markets finished well off the lows. The Diamond and the Russell turned positive on massive rotation. What will tomorrow bring? I'm doing this late, 10:30 on Thursday night. Just got back from a work dinner. Um, Apple earnings, kind of a big yawn. I think they're up about 1%. Decker's was up significantly. Right now, NASDAQ futures are down 160, Dow down 200, Russell down 20, gold down 140, and Bitcoin's down another 2,000 points. So not a lot of strength looking at the pre-market right now. A lot can happen between now and then. Started that way on Sunday, and Monday wasn't so bad. Again, my name is Jeffrey Scott, marketmripro@gmail.com. My Google group's called Top Down Trader. My website's marketmripro.com. This is for educational purposes only. Anything we talk about should be taken in the spirit of education and not investment advice. The intent of the video is to demonstrate the tools of top-down analysis and how I apply them. Trading involves risk. You are solely responsible for any investment decisions you make. I may own or intend to buy or sell any stock mentioned in this report. Trading stocks and options should be considered risky. You should always consult with your financial advisors. And I've got tools in multiple platforms. My Google group is where I communicate. When I post something, I send an email out. I'll post things there rarely, but when I see a change intraday or something to jump on, if I see a stock that I'm liking that I haven't talked about, I might talk about it on the Google group. But it's really my mailing list. So if you're interested in learning more about what I do, coming to my live meetings, getting recordings that I don't post on video on YouTube, sign up for Google Group. Just go to Google Groups, go to all groups, click join group, find Top Down Trader, and let me know how to contact you. And when you're done, you just exit. I won't even know. News and earnings. Well, we got a few things coming on Friday. We got December core PPI and the PPI year over year, core year over year, the overall PPI. It's December, so it's delayed. Probably still some value there. A couple Fed heads speak in the afternoon, so their blackout is over. And then allegedly Trump's going to pick somebody to be the new Fed head. You got to believe that we don't see a cut to the new person comes in, and you just wonder if he doesn't just come in and do a 50 basis point cut. But probably not, because that would mean he's probably being controlled by somebody else. If we look at earnings tonight, as I mentioned, Apple earnings are out. They were good. I think they traded up a little more originally, but looking at the last look, they were up a little bit over 1%. SanDisk was up 14%, Decker's was up 12.7%, and Tesla's talking about potentially merging with SpaceX, and they're up 3% on that news. It would fit since they announced that they're stopping the X and the S and using the plant to make robots and other cool futuristic things. We've got some earnings in the morning. We've got SoFi, Amex, Verizon, so not Chevron and Exxon, so not without any potential drama, even though the current economic data releases are kind of nominal. Again, free mentoring session on Saturday at 10 a.m. Filling up. Registration link will be in the remarks below. It's open to anybody. You don't have to own my tools. You can reproduce some of what I do in your own tools. You don't necessarily have to buy anything. And even if you don't buy anything, if I help you, I feel good about that. So I'll go through top-down investing, why I do it, how I analyze market sectors, industry groups, and stocks, show you some of my favorite scans, and how I use options as stock replacement. For more information about anything that I do, marketmripro@gmail.com, and if there's any program issues, bugs, etc., or requests for improvements, new features, coding at marketmripro.com. So I was surprised when I looked at this and saw that the Russell and the Diamonds eked out small gains on the day. Volatility was higher. Dollar was higher earlier, um, but closed down at 0.15% down. It was at one point up 0.3%. Spider was down 0.2, Qs were down 0.6, and Bitcoin was down another 5.76%. So you probably saw more volatility in your portfolio than you see right there. If we look at the new highs minus new lows and just look at the 12 month or 52 week, still positive on the NYSE, and we've turned negative on the NASDAQ. So deterioration in some of the breadth measures on the NASDAQ. If we look at the S&P 500 sectors, we could see communications led higher, 2.8%. Think Netflix, not Netflix, think Meta. Then we have real estate 1.27, financials 1.06, the regionals mostly, solar up 1.05. The big loser was technology 1.6. Sector or theme-wise, copper, transports, oil production, Norway, telecommunications, MLPs, and infrastructure were the big winners. And if we look at losers on themes, software, cannabis, cloud, uranium, that's a big change from what we've been seeing. Interesting. You could see uranium ETFs have been up 39% in the last 20 days. Cybersecurity, gold, silver, so a lot of the strength of recent era days led the sell-off. So there was a big rotation. Was it a one-day wonder or something more nefarious? Well, let's take a look. Timing model, we'll talk about the candles in a few minutes. If we just look at the model, we're still green on the Spider, Q, and Russell. The only thing that is in a sell signal is the diamonds. When you look at the Russell, they're clearly in a downtrend, and you can see that the trending indicator, the bongos, have gone red, but it's still closed above the WMA, so it's still in a buy signal. If I shoot out and look at weekly, a little bit longer time frame, we're still in a buy on all four time frames. So I have to treat this by my rules, and my rules say we're still in an uptrend. There is a pullback and a little bit of pressure, especially on the diamonds, but I'm not shorting this market, although part of me thinks the market has a little bit more risk in it than my signals are showing, but I got to obey my signals. If I look at the index ETFs, that doesn't mean I didn't sell stuff and raise cash. And I took some heat on Microsoft, but thank God I bought 20 puts against my 10 calls yesterday. If we look at the Spider, definitely in an uptrend, look at this day here. We almost traded down to the 100 in reverse, closed down on the session 0.20, but avoided much of the damage. We look at the Qs, same type of a candle. I don't know if that's a John Person jackhammer candle, but that's a pretty interesting candle where we really came back as the day wore on. And this is where Microsoft lives, and the Qs were down just 0.6%. You can see the diamonds actually dojied right on the 21-day EMA. It hasn't broken down. And then the Russell, even better, kind of one of those big bottoming tail candles, closing on the 17-day simple. So are these broken? No, they're not. It was an interesting day. Now, I probably will mentally or physically draw lines under the lows of today's candles. And if we take those lines out, I'm going to be very nervous about this market. So I'm just putting those lines in there to remind me as we go forward to talk about it. It was an impressive day and really a very impressive comeback. But not the same stocks. It was led by significant rotation. Volatility is still of interest to me. I think volatility is too high, and I think that's a concern I would have. And if we look at the VIX, you could see traded up, rejected, came right back, but it's going up this trend line, and it's now coming into the 21-day and the 50-day, or the 50-day and the 100-day moving averages. So I'm a little bit nervous still about the VIX. And then the dollar has been up and down, and today was a down day just a bit. But you see here the big sell-off that we just went through on the US dollar. If I go into commodities, they've certainly benefited from a weak dollar. Take a look at these. Gold and silver to the moon. Looks like a climax run. We'll see if it's the end of the run. But what an impressive move. It traded all the way down here, filled that gap, and then closed up here and actually finished up on the day 0.30. Silver, same thing. Pressure took it all the way down, took out these three prior bars and closed only down 0.03%. So gold and silver are holding up much more than I would have thought. Oil, big gap up, so energy is one place to be right now. Natural gas holding above the 200. So the energy complex looks good. Here is the 10-year. The good news is it was down a bit. It was down 0.85%. That's a good drop. And the 30-year similarly was down 0.29. So commodities are holding up incredibly well. I think they get more risky every day. We're going to wake up one day and they're going to be limit down. But I don't know when that's going to happen. Nobody does. All right, let's continue on. If we look at the buckets, I'll just say no change. We're still neutral. Yeah, the NASDAQ is starting to build up stocks on the bottom, but I'm only at 10% below the lower band. That's not a signal. So weaker, yes. Signal, no. Market breadth to me is interesting. NASDAQ traded up, traded down, and closed kind of unchanged, up 0.33. That was rather than NYSE, my bad. The NASDAQ couldn't hold the trend line and actually finished down 0.72 today. I think this trend line still matters, and I think this wedge is still in play. Stocks above the moving averages have eased off a bit. We could see here that the new highs are greater than new lows. The AD line was positive, as was the up-down volume. No new signals down here, and the 13-week new high, new low is neutral. Now, I don't know why that's not staying in the right place. Let me just fix my chart. That down. All right, so left is NYC, right is the NASDAQ. Both of them are right off all-time highs. How bearish can we be? What I do like is that the NASDAQ 13-week new high, new low at 0.29 rather is getting closer and closer to where I expect a bounce. A bounce occurring right off of old highs is kind of intriguing. Ratio charts just showing which sectors are outperforming the S&P. It remains materials. Oh, I hate when I do that. Hold on a sec. Oh, well, I messed those up, didn't I? Let's look at the daily. You can see on the daily that communication strong, technology has picked up of late, and utilities is starting to pick up, and Bitcoin is weakened. You know that. All I got to do is go look at the futures. If we look at the multi-instrument breadth, 13-week is at 0.62, 0.60, 0.46, and we know this one's at 0.29. None of them are so bad the market has to rebound, but they're all getting, the overboughtness is weaning off, and they're getting closer to be ready to go up. And the NASDAQ isn't very far away from giving us a signal. If I look at the non-timing ratio sectors, just blow it up and look at it. We'll start with Bitcoin. Oh, breaking down, strong down day. Here we have technology still holding above the moving average and still long, but had a down day, down 1.6%. This is discretionary holding up okay, although it did break below the moving averages today. Communications had a gap up on Meta earnings. Industrials remained strong. A lot of the data center stocks are there. Here is financials. Now, I mentioned that KRE might be interesting, and we see a lot of action in some of the regionals. Energy strong, we knew that already. And here's materials holding up well. And then real estate pulling into the WMA. Utilities holding up. And staples very strong. I think that's it. That should take us back to Bitcoin. And healthcare. Healthcare weakened today, but biotech was unusually strong. And we're back to Bitcoin. And then I like to look at some of my favorite big stocks and a couple of ETFs. So we'll do the same thing and look at comment on some of the widely held stocks. Amazon trying to hold, like it's got earnings next week. We see what happens if you miss earnings. Apple up 1% after hours, may clear that moving average complex, which will be enough to give it a buy signal. Still could have some issues with this 50. What's support on the way up is often resistance on the way down. Google continues to be super strong. Meta, major move after earnings, really was shockingly good earnings, even though their CapEx is high. You could see they had $8.88, which was an 8% surprise, and a 2% surprise on revenue. Whatever it is, the street certainly liked it and rewarded it. Netflix is dead to me until it figures out what it's doing with Warner Brothers and all the litigation that's about to come from the different countries and states. Tesla, we'll see if it rallies tomorrow on the announcement with the merger with SpaceX potential, but breaking down didn't really do much positive today. Neither did most of the stocks except for Google. And NVIDIA. NVIDIA had a strong day. And then here we go to Microsoft, and Microsoft had its DeepSeek moment today. It's a massive sell-off. It did drop lower during the day, and it ran up the last half hour, but still ran up is relative when you're down essentially 10% on the day. If we go into the JAS layout and we go into the top down, see what the strength is on the broader market. This is real estate, financials, and energy. If we look at what are the leading industry groups by percent return, banks, real estate. And there's your regional banks, 327. If we come in here, put a 3-day and a 500. It's right in front of me. Here it is, 5 and 500, not 3. Okay. I got 173. If I rank them by number of up positive impulses, let's take a look. MA, surprise, this is a stock that's been under pressure because of the potential cap on interest. Flowtech, I think this is in the oil and gas space. Let's see what it says. Industrial, commercial, and consumer markets, United Arab, green specialty chemicals, increases profitability of hydrocarbon producers. Nice uptrend, seasonality looks good. EMS, CPR, volume, gap, breakout, momentum, good relative strength in OBV, cheap stock that looks okay. Earnings are when? Let me hit this one. March 9th, is that when they are? That means they're already out. Yep, it's going to have 15 cents versus 14, not that exciting on the earnings. Bread Financial Holdings, they blew out earnings. That's not much of a reward. 404% growth. Multiple going forward of 7.42. 118 and 404%. Revenue not growing as fast, pays a 1 point something dividend. I think Bread Financial looks really interesting. I love the earnings per share growth. In fact, I'm surprised it didn't move more. Seasonality is okay for a week or two, then we have to worry about it. Big volume, CPR, gap, volume, breakup, momentum, relative strength, and OBV picking up. Bread Financial Holdings looks interesting. XPro is an energy oil services, high base, looks like it's ready to run. VLY is a large regional bank. TSFL regional bank. TBBK regional bank. LBRT, another oil services company. You can see it had a big breakout today. It's one of my favorite ways of scanning and searching. I'll also do the FM5, 5-day momentum. There's MasterCard, STFL, Aon, Human Resources, Liberty, Marcia McClendon. Can use them on my boat. Insurance brokers, WSFS, regional bank, BPOP, which was one of my picks from the weekend, which hasn't gone much, but it's higher than when we talked about it. There's Bread Financials. So I think from this top-down approach, one of the things that interests me is Bread Financial Holdings. I'd have to study it, see is it a tech play or is it a regional bank? Tech forward payment and lending solutions. All right, so I might also look at some regional banks. So another thing that you could do is go to the sectors. Let's go find regional banks. Oh, wonder it's under banks. Probably. Banks regional. There are 80 of them. I might actually look for my buy signal on that 80. This is my A trade, and let's just look at these and see if anything looks as good or better than Bread. TFC, run up, sideways move, earnings are already out. FLG, Flagstar, Regions, WBS looks the same. Home Bank, these all look the same. WAFD, ASB, Key, looks good. And FMB, riding up a trend line. So one way to play these is just to say I'm buying KRE. KRE is an ETF. It looks like some of the leading stocks. I think regionals look interesting. I might go with Bread Financial, though, after what we looked at tonight. Short one tonight. I think the market's too volatile for me to give you lots of stocks to look at. And I'll be probably cashing some stuff up and raising cash. I'm getting nervous up here. Talk to you over on Saturday. Look forward to having you for my mentoring.